special guest coming on for the Lawyers Emotional Intelligence Book Club. And you can find out more about that at facebook.com/lawyersEQ. And so we're going to be talking about tonight is how nature and going into nature can de-stress you for various reasons. And so I just want to make sure that whatever firewall issue that I'm having here won't happen tonight. So it's really important for me to take care of that. So I'm just going to go through the content today. If you have specific questions, if you're a member of the general public and you want to, ask any legal question you might have, if you're a young lawyer and you'd like to be mentored, again, I'm here to answer those questions as well. But what I'm really here to talk about is the second mistake that businesses make in hiring litigation attorneys. And the first mistake was waiting to consult a lawyer before it's too late, and that goes into statute of limitations issues and really waiting, and that'll cost you later for various reasons, right? But today I want to talk about a belief that some people have, and it's a mistake having this belief, and it's believing that you can't afford good quality legal representation on a budget. And so I wanted to talk about why I think that's a mistake that businesses and people make when hiring attorneys, because you really can get good quality legal representation on a budget. And so where I'm coming from this, sort of the backstory is, I practice at a firm that does business litigation. So essentially that's, businesses that sue each other for whatever reason: breach of contract cases, fraud cases, breach of fiduciary duty cases, which are essentially cases where businesses steal employees from other businesses, or employees take business opportunities that their employer should have. So those are breach of fiduciary duty cases. And so what I've seen along the lines, I've seen this a couple of, many times actually, when I was a defense attorney, and that is businesses who, spend all sorts of money, give all the sorts of money to attorneys who go out of their way to have a scorch the earth policy and tactics, and then they end up getting as a judgment much less than what the business paid out. Now, there are various reasons as to why a business might want to do that, but that's not what we're talking about today. Oftentimes, if you have sort of like a personal vendetta that maybe a corporate executive has against their former employee, and you really want to go after them, and it doesn't matter what how much money you spend, then this video is not for you. But for most businesses who look at litigation as a business decision, that you want to, as a plaintiff, you want to make more money in a judgment than you want to pay out to your attorneys. On the defense side, it's the same thing. You want to spend less money on an attorney than you would, paying out a judgment, because if you could just pay out a settlement or pay out a judgment to the other side, that would what's the point of hiring an attorney to defend you, right? And so there's a couple of things that I would suggest as we go along. The first is starting with your goal in mind, and this is so it should be very obvious, but it's something that many attorneys actually don't do. They don't actually start with a goal in mind. They don't ask their client, what is their goal in this litigation? What is your goal in filing this lawsuit? What is your goal in hiring me to defend your lawsuit? Because sometimes it is on the defense side to get to a quick settlement. Sometimes as a plaintiff, you're going for an ultimate judgment at the end of the day of a certain amount. And so, part of what an attorney does, a good attorney helps you to refine what your goal is and what your goal should be. Because a lot of clients come into my office and have, goals that are, can't be achieved. They want, They want a full judgment. They want to collect their attorney's fees. They want costs. They want to get their experts paid, and they want punitive damages. In 5 million, $6 million in punitive damages, and that just it can't happen for various reasons, right? I mean, sometimes it can. Sometimes you have a great case, and you can go down the line, and then maybe you can, get that judgment. The other side is, can you actually collect it from the other side, because of bankruptcies and the like. But so there are various reasons why a good lawyer will help a client come up with their goal, an appropriate goal. And so it's working together to do that is important. Okay. So once you have a goal in mind, then you have to have a budget. So many lawyers work without a budget. And to me, it's like working without a net, because again, there's a cost calculus between having, what your goal is and what you do to achieve it. Because if you spend more money than you're going to get in a judgment, it doesn't make any sense for the client. It just enriches the lawyer pretty much, and it doesn't really help the client much. And the client is not going to be happy. The client is not going to give you referrals as a lawyer, and so it's something to be careful of. One of the things that I think clients don't understand is that they actually have a lot of control over what goes on with what their lawyer does. And yes, of course, lawyers have ethical obligations, and lawyers have ultimate control over strategy of the litigation. But on the other hand, the client holds the purse strings. So if the client disagrees with what their lawyer is doing, because you can see that they're just spending your money, then you have the ability to pull the plug, right? And so as a lawyer, I understand, I have ethical obligations, but I also want to keep my client extremely happy, because at the end of the day, they're going to be the ones, at telling people about me. They're the ones that are going to be referring, other people, other clients to me. And so it's really important for me to keep my my client happy. So having a budget in mind, sitting down and explaining to my clients in terms of, this is how a litigation proceeds. These are all the things that we could do, and within your budget, this is what I would recommend. This is what we can do. Now, of course, as a lawyer, you're going to explain, especially if your tactics are going to be, much less in terms of, what they would be if you had, unlimited money, an unlimited budget, right? You're going to want to explain to the client, yes, if I had an unlimited budget, I would be doing all of this stuff. But because of your budget and because of your goals, we're actually going to do X, Y, and Z instead of doing, A through Z, right? And so it's extremely important to get that in writing as a lawyer, because you want to make sure that, sometimes down the line, your client doesn't say, well, hey, you could have done all of this stuff in order to win my case, but you only did, this, you only did these few actions. And by having a written communication, you can really, decrease the scope of your representation and ensure that the budget that you have in mind fits with your goals, fits with the tactics that you're going to have going forward. Now, the third step is to enforce the budget. So how do you do that? Well, a good lawyer will send you, and again, by the way, I'm not talking on the plaintiff side, I'm not talking about a contingency fee lawyer, because those are lawyers who, especially on the personal injury side, they take a case, they don't send out, they don't collect, an hourly fee. What they do is they take maybe a third of, whatever your judgment or settlement is at the end of the day. I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is, attorneys who bill by the hour, and that's typically what business lawyers do. They typically don't take contingency cases. They bill by the hour, even on the plaintiff side. But my recommendations here, I think, go for both plaintiffs and defendants attorneys. So, as I said, the third step is enforcing the budget. So your lawyer will send you billing statement every month, and it'll tell you like the task for it is. So whatever it is, writing a motion, researching a motion, reviewing documents, phone call, they'll bill you for, right? Well, sorry about all the glitchiness of the system. Hopefully, I'm in a different part of my house, so maybe it's the internet connection. We'll see if this is any better. So, as I was going through, sort of what I would call my efficient litigation system is what I call it. So we started with our goal in mind. We have a budget, and we're going to enforce the budget. And as I was saying, I think a lot of clients don't understand the power that they hold over, that clients hold over attorneys in terms of what they can do and how their attorneys spend their money, right? And part of that is enforcing the budget. So you're going to get a bill in the mail every month with what the attorney does in terms of all of the tasks that they do, how much time they spend, and what that ends up being in real dollars. And so at the end of the day, you want to compare what your budget is as opposed to what money is being spent for various tasks. And so hopefully your budget that you've created has various categories in terms of, putting together the pleadings. So pleadings are things like complaints and answers and that sort of thing. Then you have, potential motions that are going to be writing or defending against. So if you're a defendant, you might want to write a motion to dismiss, for example. If you're a plaintiff, maybe you want to write a motion for judgment on the pleadings. So there are various things that you're going to want to do. And then, things like, discovery. So discovery is essentially, asking questions of the other side, either in written format or in deposition. So that's asking them questions in person. Document production is a big thing that occurs, in larger cases. So you're asking the other side for documents, you have to produce documents, and lawyers have to review them. And so, and then, you have things like summary judgment motions, and then you have actually going to trial. So you have all of these categories that hopefully your attorney has helped you sort of build in to the budget. And so as you go along in your case, you can see, and you can ask your attorney to do this. You can ask your attorney to, put their task and put their bills within the certain categories, right? And so, you can say, well, this motion writing belongs in the, motion to dismiss category of the budget. And so you want to, as a client, make sure that you're enforcing the budget, because the attorney might, get out of hand in terms of, what they're spending, not on purpose, but it just happens. And as a lawyer, as a client, excuse me, you want to enforce that budget. You can, ask for discounts, for example. You can explain to them, look, this was our budget. Why did you go over? And so enforcing the budget is really key. The fourth step is, what do you do with surprises? Because there are tons of things that happen. And as I always tell my clients, there's no guarantee in litigation whatsoever. You never know, what's going to happen. Tons of surprises can come up. Things can happen, like your judge can get changed. And so, judge might retire, whatever happens there. And so you might have to spend money to get that judge up to speed, prepare a status report, and that sort of thing. Maybe the other side's attorney actually quits or is fired. And so there's time there. And that may cause a shift in the other side's strategy. And so that'll cost, some additional time as well. And so, maybe the judge makes a ruling that nobody expected, just a complete surprise to all the parties involved. And as a result, that's going to dramatically change the landscape of things as well. And so, what do you do with surprises? Well, number one, you have to expect surprises. So hopefully you're building some of that into your budget. But then also, there has to be a meeting of the minds in terms of, what the attorney is recommending and what the client will accept when it comes to the surprise. Because, again, there are so many things that you could do. The question is, as a response, what should you do that will correspond to what the goal of the client is within a certain budget? And so when you're looking at, what surprises can occur, and when surprises come up in litigation, then you really want to sit down and have a meeting and communicate. Because, one of the things that, I've seen along the lines is, good attorneys communicate well with their clients. They make sure that clients understand what's going on. And then they communicate, not only the strategy, but an understanding of what the client needs and wants. And there's a confirmation with what the lawyer is doing and the actions that follow that will help to meet the client's goals. So that's sort of what I think about. And I apologize for the multiple videos here. I'm not sure, what's going on the technical side. But it's really important for me. It was really important for me to share this message with y'all because, again, I've seen this happen so many times where, a client wants to, prosecute a lawsuit or hires a lawyer to defend a lawsuit. and then costs spiral out of control for various reasons. And then they might have been better off not filing the lawsuit. They might have been better off not hiring a lawyer to defend it, and maybe or hiring a lawyer just for the purposes of trying to settle the case quickly. But there's a lot of different things that a client can do to control costs, a lot of things that a client can do to ensure that the strategy and the tactics that the lawyer uses will correspond to what that budget is. And so, that's it for today. Got my fingers crossed for tonight again. 7 p.m. Central tonight. If you go to facebook.com/lawyersEQ, you'll find out more about the Lawyers Emotional Intelligence Book Club. We are continuing on with Dr. Rangan Chatterjee's book, The Stress Solution. And as I mentioned before, there are really 4 areas that Dr. Chatterjee takes us through. One is purpose, so how to align our actions with our purpose, and that will help to de-stress us. Number 2 is relationships, so making sure that you're building and keeping relationships that will, feed your soul, will allow you to not be stressed out, because bad relationships can stress you out. Everyone knows that. The third area is body. So, what you eat, how you exercise, or not will stress you out. And then the last part is mind. So we talked last time about how, you can be overloaded with technology and how that can stress you out. And tonight we're going to be talking about how going into nature will de-stress you and can distress you. Not distress, but de-stress you, right? And so if you ever notice, going out walking in a forest, or, watching a television show about nature, you actually can feel more calm. Well, why is that? We're going to talk about that tonight. So my special guest tonight is Laurel O'Sullivan. She's, I don't think she practices anymore, but she's a former attorney, former supervisor of mine, actually, at a place called Alliance for the Great Lakes, formerly known as the Lake Michigan Federation. Really great person. She does a lot of traveling and, goes into nature quite a bit. And so, she has some great pictures that she's going to share. She also has a lot of great thoughts about, how, it's important to go into nature. It's important to reconnect, and it'll be a great conversation. So come on over to facebook.com/lawyersEQ. There's an event tab on the side. You can click and RSVP, register for the event tonight. You don't have to, but it helps us to know, how many people are coming. And then if you have, specific comments or questions about nature, or you follow along and you part of the discussion, you want to ask questions, feel free to do that. Feel free to let us know your thoughts on nature. If you have done a lot of traveling and you want to share, I invite you to do that. If you have questions along the way, I invite you to do that as well. So again, 7 p.m. Central tonight, the Lawyers Emotional Intelligence Book Club at facebook.com/lawyersEQ. I think that's it for tonight, or for today. I'll see you tonight over in the book club. Again, my name is Dave Scriven-Young. I'm a commercial litigation, environmental, and construction attorney. I go live every day at 8 a.m. Central to talk about various things, to give my message for the day, to answer legal questions from folks from the community, as well as to mentor young lawyers. So join me again tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Central on all of these channels. Hopefully I figured out what the glitch is, and it may just be that my connection in my office is not that great. Again, when you go live, you never know what's going to happen. I'm sure you've seen it, but one of my favorite clips is that guy giving the CNN interview, and his kid walks in the room, and then the wife drags the kid out. I mean, it's the funniest thing. And the only thing that happens to me is I have some glitchy internet. Well, I can take that. You can just follow along on the various videos that I have. So anyway, I'll stop rambling, but it was really great talking with all of you. over the last 48 minutes, and I'll see you tomorrow morning. Take care.